Monday, November 4th, 2013. At this time, I'd like to confirm that we do have a quorum of our minimum 150 registered voters. In Precinct 1, we had 31. Precinct 2, we had 38. Precinct 3, we had 25. Precinct 4, we had 18. Precinct 5, we had 38, for a total of the 150. And I know there's a few more people who have just came in. I'd like to welcome you all. The warrant has been duly distributed according to the new bylaws in the town of Abington. It's been posted on the town website, and it's also been made available at various public places in the town. So we have confirmation that notice of this special town meeting is in compliance with our town bylaws and with state law. Ladies and gentlemen, for our Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to invite the members of Abington's Boy Scout Troop 41 to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Gentlemen, if you'd like to come up front. These young men are led by some volunteer dads. Gentlemen, when you are ready, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, gentlemen. These boys are here to earn part of their merit badges, public participation in government. They learned a lesson in what a quorum is tonight. No, I didn't count them. They're not registered voters. Good evening. My name is Sean Riley. I am the town moderator. We only have 14 articles to work through tonight. We will be using the handout that has been made available for all of you. I want to make sure I have it. That has the handout that has the Finance Committee's recommendations in the bold and italicized wording there. There was also a handout for the Article 3 capital expenditure motion, which we'll be using for Article 3. If you did not yet get a copy and you'd like to follow along, they are available on the tables to the rear of the hall. For those of you attending your first town meeting, we're very happy you've taken the time to exercise your right to vote in this town's legislative body. And for those of you who have come back for yet another night of town meeting, we thank you for your continued dedication. Please let me introduce our town clerk, Leanne Adams, who sits here to my left, and Mr. Joseph Fair, who's our town council on the far table, who's sitting with our town manager, Mr. Rick LaFond. Attorney Fair and town clerk Adams will be trying to help me make sure we run this meeting in accordance with all of our proper procedures and as smoothly as possible. To my right, the members of the Abington Finance Committee. Finance Committee are resident volunteers who are asked to review and analyze each article which is to be voted here tonight. They will make recommendations to you in the form of a motion, but it is up to you, the voters here in attendance, to cast your vote to have the final say over the approval of any article. We ask you to abide by a few general rules and guidelines at town meeting. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak, and the moderator will recognize you at the earliest available moment, and then we'll ask you to stand and speak, and please use one of the two microphones. Either come up to the microphone at the podium, or there's one right here in the middle of the gym floor. We ask that you give your name and address, even if I know who you are, before you begin speaking, so that the town clerk can record the minutes of the town meeting. Keep all comments and questions relevant to the article being discussed. If you start straying, I'm going to ask you to limit your discussion. A motion to move the question will be taken up as any other motion on the floor. For those of you who are new to town meeting, a motion to move the question is a request to end all debate and move directly to a vote on the article. To move the question, a person must be recognized by the moderator, and that motion to move the question must be immediately mentioned. You cannot take the microphone, recite your opinion on an article, and then try to shut off everyone else's debate by moving the question at the end of your comments. Please also understand that the moderator has the right to rule that a motion to move the question is out of order if I believe that the motion is unfairly or prematurely limiting the voter's right to hear answers to questions or to better understand an article or an amendment. Only registered voters can actually vote on any of the articles. If you are not a resident or if you are not a registered voter, I'm going to ask you to sit to the far back ends of the gym bleachers. If you are in those areas right now and you are a registered voter, I'm going to ask you to move forward out of that section, or you will not be counted when we do count. So thank you for complying. If we do come to any time when we have to make a head count, I've asked Mr. Emery to be one of my counters. He'll count everyone on the bleachers to our left. You will not count the department head section up here. Mr. Russell will count everyone in this section of chairs to my left, including anyone who might be standing at the rope line, which there should be none. Everyone should be seated. Mr. Drew will count everyone here in the right section of chairs and the members of the Finance Committee as they may vote. and as the town clerk or moderator may vote, although the moderator doesn't vote unless there's a tie. And Mr. Aiello will count all the votes in the bleachers on the right side. Thank you very much. I need to appoint a deputy moderator. We did this at the annual town meeting, but as is the tradition, I ask you to approve the appointment of Mr. Robert Kelly as our deputy moderator in case I need to step down for any reason. All those in favor of approving Bob Kelly as deputy moderator, please vote by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, just barely. Understanding that many of you may have babysitters at home, please turn down your cell phone ringers, and if you do have to take a call, we ask that you please go into the lobby of the gym. I'd also like to thank and welcome State Representative Jeff Deal and State Senator John Keenan, who are here tonight in the House in the rear. We appreciate you being here at our town meeting and the work that you do for all of the residents and constituents in Abington. Keep it up. We need a lot of help from the state, and hopefully we'll get a lot done very quickly here tonight. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Finance Committee Chairperson, Maureen Jansen, and ask that she introduce the remaining members of the Finance Committee, and we'll proceed with Article 1.
Sorry about that. Okay, so thank you, Sean, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your evening tonight to come be part of this special town meeting. Very quickly, I just wanted to introduce your Finance Committee over here. We've got Barbara Cristofaro, Rick Franey, Stephanie Eastwick, Chad Lovett, Matt Salah, Cindy Whiting, Sean Tyler, and our recording secretary, Debbie Libby. Thank you, guys. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time, just wanted to welcome you. Thank you all for coming tonight. Basically what we have tonight, we have a couple articles to go through. We're going to ask you to look and approve at some capital items. As we've done in the past, we also have some housekeeping items, if you will. Some of these things we're going to ask you to do tonight is allocate what we refer to as free cash into the town's savings account, also known as the stabilization account. We're going to be appropriating some funds, like I said, for the purchase or lease of some capital items. We're also going to ask you to approve the funding to pay for some outstanding bills from last year's fiscal year and transfer some funding from one town department or so to another to be more consistent with the needs and the expenditures of those departments. There are some other articles in here which are regarding how the town wishes for you, basically making a decision as to how the town wishes to ask our legislators to act upon an issue of the proposed changes to the laws and redevelopment plan at the South Shore Tri-Town Development Corporation. We're also going to be taking up a vote to extend a temporary moratorium on the use of land and structures within the town for medical marijuana treatment centers. Again, of course, we're going to go into all these in a little bit more detail, so thank you for your patience, and we'll move along.
Thank you very much, and I would like to announce there is one vacancy on the Finance Committee. Usually we have a body of 9, so if you are interested in serving on the Finance Committee, please give me a call, shoot me an email, or you can get in touch with me through the town manager's office. And I'd also like to thank again the Boy Scouts for being here for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Matt Comiletti for helping out, with the food pantry collection that we had in the lobby earlier this evening. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll start right away with Article 1. Article 1 is to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $628,249 from free cash to the stabilization fund and take any other action relative thereto.
Before making a motion, I just wanted to mention the fact that you may recall at the last town meeting that the town agreed to take approximately $536,000 from stabilization to cover the cost of snow and ice removal from last winter's storms. Tonight we're going to ask you to approve replacing those funds as well as an additional approximately $90,000 back into stabilization. And a note here that the amount that we're asking to go into stabilization is approximately 60% of the available free cash. The remainder of the free cash, with your approval, will be appropriated on other items in tonight's agenda. Okay. So the Finance Committee moves to transfer $628,249 from certified free cash to the stabilization account.
Under the new law, this requires a 2/3 vote minimum, so is there anything to be heard on or any questions about Article 1? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 2 is to transfer from available funds to pay some unpaid bills. Maureen.
The Finance Committee moves to authorize payment of bills of a prior fiscal year as set forth under Article 2, as printed in the warrant, with $1,031 for FB Insure to be paid from the FY 2014 insurance line item, and to transfer $3,083.20 from Strawberry Valley Golf Course retained earnings for the other bills so specified.
Is there anything to be heard on the motion for Article 2? If not, all those in favor, this requires 9/10, so if it's not unanimous, we have to stand up and count. All those in favor of approving Article 2, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Thank you. Article 3.
Before getting into Article 3, I just wanted to point out that Article 3 on the first page there is showing that we're voting to transfer from available funds or borrow a total of sum of $683,500. In fact, I just wanted to point that out because if you look at, a little farther in, if you look at the actual use of the funds and you add it up, it equals $713,500. There's a difference of $30,000 there. The issue there is that when we were looking at the warrant and the cost associated with replacing the 2002 ambulance, the cost was initially printed in there as $225,000, and in fact it's $255,000. So the number in the article does not change. We couldn't change it because that's the way the article was written. However, I just wanted to point out to you that that funding for the article is actually a request to obtain funding for a lease to purchase. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that the true number, if you look at it, is a little further in the article. The total recommended is going to be $713,500.
So in just a second, I'm going to ask Maureen on behalf of the Finance Committee to make a motion to spend the $713,500, and she's going to have to break it down and tell us from where the money's coming. Just to be clear for people, this change was okay and allowed by Town Council and myself because this is not new money. We're not raising taxes to pay for this addition. This is money that was basically left over available from last year. Maureen.
Okay, thank you. So the Finance Committee moves to transfer $65,000 from Sewer Enterprise Fund retained earnings for the acquisition and equipping of a utility truck, transfer $12,500 from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings for the acquisition and equipping of a joint waterworks treatment vehicle to be used with a like amount from the town of Rockland, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a lease purchase agreement for the term of up to or exceeding 3 years in the amount of $255,000 for the acquisition and equipping of a new ambulance, with the expectation that the cost thereof will be paid from Ambulance Enterprise Fund, and further to transfer $381,000 from free cash for all of the other capital items recommended by the Town Manager and the Finance Committee as printed in the warrant under Article 3.
All right, are we good with that motion? Just looking at the Town Manager and Town Council, okay? Great. Anything to be heard on the motion for Article 3 to fund the capital plan as specified in the motion by the Finance Committee? Moderator recognizes Town Manager Richard LaFond.
It's Richard J. LaFond. Just to point out quickly, the Council on Aging did bring to my attention that on the warrant it says to replace the van. Just so you know, there is a state grant involved here. The item that is being essentially purchased through state funding won't be online until probably next fiscal year, July or August. So at that point in time, the existing van will either be declared surplus, kept in reserve, and that's a decision that will be made by the Council on Aging, the Selectmen, and the Finance Committee at that time. Just so there's no question, the replace does not mean that vehicle is being used as a trade-in for the new vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. LaFond. Anything else to be heard on Article 3? If not, this also will require a minimum 2/3 vote. If nothing to be heard, all those in favor of approving Article 3 as motioned by the Finance Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 4, see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds to supplement specific budget line items, and these are all shown in the handout for Article 4. There's 3 items in particular. Maureen.
Yes, Sean, and there are three items in there. The first item, which is listed as $6,568 to library expense, we're actually going to separate that same total number into 2 line items, if you follow me on this. What we're going to ask is that $5,500 be transferred from Board of Selectmen salaries which by the way is the town administration and supporting staff, so 5,500 from Board of Selectmen salaries to library salaries, and the other $1,068 from Board of Selectmen salaries to line item expenses. It's just breaking that number down into salaries and expenses,
To library expenses.
to library expenses and library salaries. Okay? So anyway, just wanted to point that out to you too. So back to Article 4. The Finance Committee moves to transfer from available funds to supplement specific budget line items appropriated under Article 1 of the 2013 Annual Town Meeting as set forth in the handout under, quote, Article 4, FY 2014 recommended line item transfers. That breakout is, on the handout, you'll see 3 line item breakouts. The one I just mentioned, which is taking the library line item and breaking it into 2,
Okay.
is the only difference on that. And just so you know, that amount that's being transferred into library salaries or library expenses would help us avoid the need for a state waiver for the libraries. The total amount is still in there, we're just breaking it into 2.
Right. Yeah, so it's not as printed in the handout as the motion that was made by
Okay.
Maureen, so that there would be 5,500 from Board of Selectmen salaries to library salaries, 1,068 from Board of Selectmen salaries to library expense, for a total of 6,568. In addition, the 25,332.80 from free cash to reserve fund, and 1,936.41 from Board of Selectmen salaries to the building department. That is the motion on the table. Totals don't change. Is there anything to be heard on the motion for Article 4? If not, all those in favor of approving Article 4 as moved, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it unanimously. Article 5 and Article 6. Article 5 and Article 6 are very similar. These are petition articles. And for efficiency, I'd like to have any debate on Article 5 and 6 be held together. So I'm going to bring both Article 5 and 6 to the table. And if you notice, if you read the articles, the difference is the first one asks, directs that any changes to the enabling legislation be basically approved by the town. And the second one is any change to the redevelopment plans of the Southfield plans over at the air base be also approved or run by the town. I believe Mr. Joseph Shea is going to be speaking on behalf of these 2 petition articles, but first we'll put it on the floor in the form of an article.
Both of them?
We'll do 2 separate motions. We'll take 2 separate votes, but we're going to have one discussion.
Okay. For Article 5, the Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant. Okay, and Article 6 would be the Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
This will actually be more of a sense of the meeting vote, if you were to support this article or not support the article. This doesn't have any direction or legal weight to tell anyone to do anything. This is basically trying to, I don't want to take your words,
Well,
Joe, but to send a message.
Okay. To take basically the town's position on both of these
Right.
items.
So the moderator would like to recognize Mr. Joseph Shea.
Joseph Shea, 3 Wyman Road. I am the Abington representative for the advisory board for the airbase. I have been involved in the airbase planning and progress since 1990. I submitted these 2 articles because the concerns I am having with what is being proposed by the new developer who has purchased the L&R stake in the airbase. In 1998, we approved the original plans for the airbase, which at the time called for a mall, and the governing legislation for how the airbase would be run and how the towns would have a voice in it. That was done by, at the time, the 3 town meetings of Abington, Rockland, and Weymouth. And the legislation said that any changes to the legislation itself or to the plans would come back to the 3 governing bodies, which in Weymouth now is the town council, but in Abington and Rockland is still the town meeting. In 2002, L&R was selected as the new master developer and developed a new plan. It was 2 to 3 years to do it, as it had been 3 years before 1998 for the original plan. L&R wanted revisions to the plan that to substantially increase the number of residential units up to 2,855 and up to 2 million square feet of commercial and industrial, which is less than we had originally hoped for. It was discussed, as I said, for 2 to 3 years, and it came back to the 3 towns for approval. The 3 towns did vote their approval. Up to now, we have developed about 278 residential units on the base and 602 permits total. In early 2003, L&R sold out its interest in various residential projects to a firm called Starwood Capital, a venture capital firm. This, as far as I'm concerned, should mean that Starwood inherited L&R's agreements, which would include what was voted in 2005. Starting in the end of July, Starwood made a verbal presentation to the Tri-Town Board of Directors stating that the current plans were not feasible and must be changed. They said the commercial development was not feasible at this point, which means that it will be delayed under their plan, under their concepts, which would mean a delay in getting the permanent jobs which we have planned for, and also raises serious questions on our agreements with the Navy. He said, Mr. Glantz, who was the vice president, said that Starwood is working with Massachusetts-based consultants to come up with some proposed changes in the plan and the legislation, and we expect to present those to the board in September or late September, early October. He declined to elaborate what those changes would be. There were no further meetings between Starwood and Tri-Town, who is the governing body, in August, September, and as far as I know, no meetings between Starwood and the towns. They did not come to the towns explaining what they were going to do. They met with individually with several groups and legislatures and newspapers, but they did not meet with the towns. On October 7th, they made a new presentation, basically confirming what we said before. They did say that they believe commercial development is not feasible at this time, will be done later. Later is undefined. Residential development would be sped up. They also said they're going to make changes to the legislation, and they're going to submit them to the legislature. They are not going to ask for the towns to approve them. They said they would show them to us for our comments, but not approval. They said they would show them to us in late October. We haven't seen them yet. They also said at a meeting they had, to some degree they hinted at, and they confirmed at a meeting with the Abington Selectmen last week, that they won't tell us what the changes in the plan are until the legislative changes are approved. So basically, we're, to some degree, at least in my personal opinion, they're asking us to take them at face value on what they say will happen. There's several changes involved in what they plan to do. I think we need to listen to what they want to say and to talk with them and see what's a good plan, as we did in 2003 through 2005 with L&R. However, I do not think that the town of Abington, or Rockland, or Weymouth should want to have the legislation or the plans changed without coming to our governing bodies, the two town meetings and the town council in Weymouth. I think without that, we're open to too much risk. We have a firm who we know very little about, saying that what has been planned before and agreed upon before, it needs to be changed. I drafted these two articles to send a message. What Starwood plans to do is go directly to the legislature. I do not know how much time they're going to give us for review. It doesn't appear to be very much, and that is another reason I'm very concerned about the way this process is going. These two articles are drafted to send a message to the legislature: do not give Starwood the ability to modify the legislation with the legislature or to modify the plans without going back to the Abington and Rockland town meetings and the Weymouth Town Council. I think we need it to protect ourselves. Does anyone have a question for me?
That's my job.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Shade. Does anyone have a question for Joe? Or anyone else in the room, for that matter? Is there anything to be heard on Article 5? And then we'll, yes, you have a question? Just please give your name and address and approach the mic.
Michael Serrano, 286 Hancock Street. My question would be is, as far as change in legislation or development that they want to do, are they talking about property that they've purchased from the town, or are they talking about property that's actually still owned by the town?
It is property that originally was Navy property. The Navy conveyed it to Tri-Town Development Corporation under a so-called DDA. It's divided in several parcels. Not all the property has yet been conveyed. The DDA called for an emphasis on permanent jobs, which means commercial development. So the land was then sold by Tri-Town to L&R. When Starwood bought L&R, they purchased the interest of L&R. At least in my opinion, Starwood should be keeping in mind that the land they got was substantially cheaper because of the fact that the Navy did not sell it at full value, because of the Navy's desire under the so-called Bragg-Gershon Act was to encourage development of jobs in the Oklahoma base. Does that answer your question?
Well, no. I'm wondering, I mean, now, did we sell, or the portion of the base that was Abington, was that sold to L&R?
It was owned by the Navy. All the land was owned by, that has gone to L&R, was taken by the Navy when the base was originally created or when it was expanded. So it was Navy land. It was not land that resides in the towns of Weymouth, Rockland, and Abington, but it's not been land that's owned by the towns themselves. When the Navy conveyed it to Tri-Town, Tri-Town then sold it to L&R. When Starwoods bought out L&R, they acquired the rights to that property. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else to be heard on Article 5 or Article 6? If not, again, this will be just a sense of the meeting vote. All those in favor of approving Article 5 and the motion by the Finance Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 6. All those in favor of approving Article 6 and the motion of the Finance Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Thank you.
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $2,500 to mow the grass at Griffin's Dairy. Maureen.
Thanks. Just so you know, this is a one-time cost for mowing and haying the lawn grass that is at Griffin's Dairy. The idea to make that property in more usable condition.
Just for those of you who don't know, this is town-owned land off of Plymouth Street in Abington.
The Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve Article 7 as printed in the warrant. Is there anything to be heard on Article 7? If not, all those in favor of approving Article 7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. It's not unanimous. Article 7 is passed. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to establish a revolving fund to be known as the Homeless Transportation Revolving Fund. Maureen.
The Homeless Transportation Revolving Account, that is what this is to set up. It's to accept reimbursement from the state and also to pay out the cost of homeless transportation for students in the town of Abington.
Finance Committee.
Okay, and the Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee recommends approval of the article as printed in the warrant. Is there anything we heard on Article 8? If not, all those in favor of approving Article 8, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 9, see if the town will vote to amend the vote taking under Article 4 of October 2011 special town meeting to expand the purpose for which the funds were expended from mason repairs-schools to general repairs-schools, or take any other action. Maureen.
Just in Article 9 is again, there's about $39,000 left in that existing article, and the goal here is to be able to use that $39,000 for repairs that are needed at various school properties. It's just that they may not fall under that definition of masonry repairs. There's still repairs that need to be done, and it's not asking for more money. It's the money that's existing in that prior article. So the Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve Article 9 as printed in the warrant. Is anything to be heard on Article 9? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. While we're talking about school, I want to congratulate the Abington High School boys soccer team, which qualified for MIAA postseason tournament play. They won their first round game this past Saturday, and I'm proud to announce that about an hour and a half ago, They just beat a very strong Cardinal Spellman soccer team 2-0 in the quarterfinals, and they will continue on in the semifinals later this week. And the Abington High School football team will be playing in their Division 5 South semifinals game at home this Friday, also against Cardinal Spellman. Please join us at Abington's Memorial Field for Friday night's game at 7 o'clock to support our student athletes. Article 10. Go ahead, you can give them a round of applause. Sure. Article 10 is to see if the town will vote to amend a zoning bylaw regarding establishing a temporary moratorium on the siting of medical marijuana treatment centers. This is actually a zoning bylaw which will require a 2/3 vote, and it actually postpones everything until the date of June 10th, 2014.
June 30th, right?
I'm sorry, June 30th, thank you, 2014. The hope is that the planning board will have public hearings and will bring an actual updated bylaw at the spring or the annual town meeting in the spring to enact at that time before the moratorium expires. Maureen.
The Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve the article as printed in the warrant. If I could just ask the planning board chairman, Wayne Smith, to just approach the mic and just confirm that you did have your required public hearing, and if you could let us know the results of the planning board's vote. It was a unanimous vote from all members present on the planning board to endorse this article. They're required to report to the town meeting. They did have the required public hearing. Are there any questions or anything to be heard about Article 10? Yes, sir.
Andrew Mullen, 707 Plymouth Street. I just have a brief statement regarding this issue. I apologize in advance if I stutter or stumble while speaking. I suffer from bipolar disorder, social anxiety, agoraphobia, and chronic, often debilitating nerve pain. It is terrifying for me to stand here in front of all of you, but I felt that I had to come here tonight and speak for all those who cannot. The people who desperately want to live some semblance of a normal life and for whom medical marijuana is the most and sometimes only effective course of treatment. The U.S. Constitution was written in 100 days. It took less than 3 months for the Founding Fathers to establish the framework for our entire nation. It has been 365 days since this law was approved by an overwhelming majority of voters. It has been 190 days since the Department of Public Health enacted the guidelines for the law and unanimously approved them. You are asking for a further 245 days to investigate the zoning impact of one possible storefront. That is a total of 610 days, 6 times longer than it took to create the United States of America. If this moratorium passes, you will prevent any of the current groups interested in building dispensaries from even considering building here. Why would they wait until next June to apply to build a dispensary in Abington when other communities are already opening their arms? It would send tax dollars and revenues to other towns, other counties. Money that could be used to buy the very things you're requesting funding for tonight will go to other communities instead. California makes $105 million in taxes off medical marijuana every year. Until we open a dispensary, Abington will not make a penny off of dispensaries. The only thing this moratorium will accomplish is to delay the inevitable, punish people like me who are in pain, and throw away potential revenue for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. You spoke very well. Anything else to be heard on Article 10? If not, the motion is to approve Article 10, which would establish the moratorium until June 30th, 2014. Again, we need a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of approving Article 10 as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The moderator has the authority to declare it as a 2/3 vote, and I do declare it was a 2/3 vote, so the Article 10 will pass. Moving on to Article 11. To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $10,000 for payment to the Community Opportunities Group, Inc., or other qualified entity, etc., as printed. Maureen?
The Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee recommends approval of Article 11, which will allow us to resubmit an application for the Community Development Block Grant for the town of Abington. Are there any questions or anything to be heard about Article 11? If not, all those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 12. Article 12 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available sums of money for the purpose of funding and implementing any of the collective bargaining agreements if they were ready for approval. Maureen.
Just this evening, we became aware that the Board of Selectmen has approved an agreement between the town and the library and the Abington Library Staff Association, Local 4928. So in fact, we do actually have a collective bargaining agreement that's been approved that we would like to move forward with. So initially, when we made our recommendation at that time, there were no collective bargaining agreements on the table, but now we do have one tonight.
Do you have a motion prepared with
I
town
do.
council's assistance and the town manager? Thank you. Go ahead.
I do, thank you. The Finance Committee moves to fund and implement the FY 2014 cost items of a collective bargaining agreement between the town of Abington, between the town and the Abington Library Staff Association, Local 4928, for the period beginning July 1st, 2011, and ending on June 30th, 2014. The necessary funds for which were previously transferred by this town meeting to the library budget under Article 4 above.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve the library union's collective bargaining agreement as stated in the motion. Are there any questions regarding Article 12? If not, all those in favor of approving Article 12's motion as presented by the Finance Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to rescind unissued borrowing authority in the amount of $40,751 for the Woodsdale School window replacement from 2011.
And so just so you're clear with this, with Article 13, this is actually to reduce unneeded, unissued borrowing authority from a prior window replacement project. The cost of the project came in under the estimation, and therefore we can rescind this authorization to borrow because we're not intending to borrow that much money. So having said that, Article 13, the Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant.
And Mr. Provost, I know we took action at a prior town meeting to rescind other money for this article, and this is the remaining money, basically to clean our credit card for the town. Any questions or any discussion about Article 13? If not, all those in favor of approving Article 13 as motioned by the Finance Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It is unanimous. I was asked by the library to let you know that tomorrow at 7 o'clock, author Christopher Klein's new book entitled Strong Boy, The Life and Times of John L. Sullivan, America's First Sports Hero. He will be at the Abington Public Library. We're honored to have him. For those of you who don't know who John L. Sullivan is, after we just celebrated our 300th birthday, you should know who he is. He was the bare-knuckle boxing champion of the world. He lived right here on Hancock Street in Abington, and this book is about John L. Sullivan. If you're interested in a little bit of history of Abington or John L. Sullivan, you need to be at the library. Wednesday, November 6th at 7 o'clock in the Copeland Room. Copies of the book will be available for sale and for autographing by the author. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, moving right on to Article 14. See if the town will vote to transfer unexpended funds encumbered in the FY 2013 health insurance budget to other post-employment benefits trust fund. Maureen.
The Finance Committee moves the article as printed in the warrant in the amount of $109,000.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve the article in the amount of $109,000. Are there any questions, anything to be heard about Article 14? If not, all those in favor of approving Article 14, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Thank you. I'd like to thank each and every one of you who took the time to be here tonight to get the town's business done. I do apologize for the delay in getting a quorum, but obviously this is very important to the town to clean our books and help us move forward. At this time, I'd like to declare that this special town meeting of November 4th is hereby adjourned as of the time of 8:13. Thank you very much for attending.